beauties, welcome back to my channel. It's Coffee. So today, because it's October, I thought I was gonna read a Reddit story I found on the internet. Sit tight, get some coffee or whatever you're drinking, or do your chores, do your thing. And let's listen to this Reddit story. This Reddit story is called "My Mom Went Out for a Drive and Came Back, but Something's Different. I don't think she's my mom anymore." "Hey, honey, I was thinking of heading out for a drive. Care to join me?" My mother's voice echoed. Glancing up as a response, "Thanks, Mom, but I'm a pass. Where are you headed?" "I thought I'd make the scenario route through the forest by Rockefeller Mountain," she replied with a hint of excitement. "All right, have fun," I said. With a gentle kiss on my cheek, my mother departed. I sat there listening to hymns of the car engine fade into the distance. Settling into the couch, I grabbed some snacks from the fridge and began mindlessly watching an old war film. The movie, combined with the coziness of the couch, pulled me into a sleep. As quickly as I fell asleep, the vibrating of my phone jerked me back awake. Rubbing my eyes, I picked it up and met with a series of missed call notifications from my mom. I tried to return her call, but each attempt was met with her voicemail. Glancing up at the clock, it read 10:58 p.m. She approximately left at 3:23 p.m. No drive specifically on the trail would take that long. A storm of thoughts began to rage in my head, each more worrisome than the last. Had she gotten lost? Had her car broken down? Or maybe something worse? As these scenarios whirled through my mind, a sharp, sudden sound perked through the air. The ring of the doorbell. I sprang up from the couch, pouncing the wooden floor as I raced to the door. The narrow view through the peephole revealed the face of my mother, but something was off. Her eyes are usually formed of warmth, but seems distant, almost hollow. Swinging the door open, my voice was a little mix of relief and frustrated. "Where have you been all this time?" She met my gaze. Those unsettling, vacant eyes seemed to peer right through me. Silent, she brushed past me with an air of detached, making her way to her room without uttering a word. The next day was somewhat normal. I found her in the kitchen going through a familiar route of preparing breakfast, but there was a change in her demeanor. Our usual conversation was absent and replaced by silence. As I got myself ready for work, I bridged the gap. "Hey, Mom, I'm headed off to work. See you soon." All I received was a nod, a silent acknowledgement, leaving a cold space where our usual warm response would be. I got off at work late. I pulled into the driveway around 2 or 3 p.m. Trying not to make a sound, I crept into the house. Not wanting to wake my mom up, I tiptoed through the dimly lit halls, towards the kitchen to grab some snacks, and then to my room. But when I flicked the kitchen light, there she was, my mom, standing still, staring out into the backyard. The sight took me aback. "Mom, why are you up?" "What? What are you looking at?" I waited for a reply, but silence hung in the air. I shrugged it off, and I said, "Work was alright today. Left a bit early after some friends took off." While grabbing my stuff from the fridge, I couldn't help but ask, "You okay, Mom?" She answered, still staring at the yard. "Yeah, okay." The way she spoke was odd. It was too upbeat, like she'd been thrilled about something. It didn't fit the moment at all. It was just off. Grabbing my stacks, I headed straight up to my room. leaving the kitchen light on for her. Morning came with familiar smell of breakfast on the weekends. Mama would cook since there was no rush for work. I headed downstairs and calling out, "Good morning!" and I grabbed some juice and sat. She cheerfully replied, "Good morning, sweetie." Looking like her usual self, she asked about work and how I slept. I wanted to remind her that we talked last night, but I didn't. I repeated what I said, and she just acted like it was new information. We chatted more, then settled to eat. As I sliced into my pancakes, something caught my eye, pulling out a tiny sewing needle from the center. My heart raced. I held it up, asking, "Mom, what's this?" As I held up the needle, the sharp point catching the light, "This was in my pancakes," I stammered. Looking at her face reflected genuine concern. She horrified assumed me. She horrifically assumed me. "I'm so sorry. I could never want to hurt you." Truly, her embrace was warm and comforting. "Don't eat any more of that. I'll whip up some new ones." Her words almost made me feel guilty for suspecting her. So bizarre that doubting naturally kept in. The day proceeded without any hitches. Laughter, movies, gossip, our ritual. Good night. Clapped it off. I climbed to bed around 10:30 p.m. As a kid, I had paralyzed fear of the dark. To combat this, my mom had placed 2 night lights, one in my room and another one in the hallway. Although my room was now devoid of light, the hallway still had its comforting glow. Awaking for a slip of water, I froze. The glow from underneath the door cemented a shadow. Someone was standing there. I watched it for what it felt like an eternity, the shadow unwavering. "Mom?" I said softly. There was no reply. Instead, the shadow went towards the room. The morning found me wavy. The haunting shadow, the weight of her eyes on me, made sleep impossible. I confronted her at breakfast. "Mom, were you outside my room around 3 p.m.?" She even she evaded the question, said her normal voice tinkled with acknowledgement. Do you remember letting me brush your hair? Do you remember letting me brush your curls when you were little? Let's do that now." Beside the sink, conditioner and a brush waited. Recently, events screamed caution, but this was my mom. Beside the sink, conditioner waited. Recent events screamed caution, but this was my mom. I ironically sank into the familiar of her touch, as she'd work at my mingle anytime, melt away. Our conversation continued as she rinsed my hair, but as I was talking, I suddenly felt a hard grip tighten in my hair. Without warning, my head was forced into the water, filling the sink. Panic overtook me. I was being drowned. It was surprised how weak you feel in a situation like this, with your mind racing and someone using their entire weight to hold you down by your back, holding you down by the back of your head. My arms flail at the time, trying to push myself up using the edge of the kitchen counter. After what felt like eternity, the grips released, gasping, coughing. I pulled my head out of the water and spun around, confronting my mom. "What the fuck are you doing?" I yelled, trying to make sense of what just happened. That was the first time I actually cursed at my mom, but I meant what the actual hell. She started laughing and pointing at me with one hand while the other kept slapping her knee. "I got you! You should have seen your face!" Staring in shock, my displeasure was clear enough that her laughter faded and replaced with a look of concern. Come on, don't be upset. It was just a joke. She stepped closer, arms open for a hug. I quickly stepped aside, keeping distance between us. A wavering expression evicted on my face. I was genuinely afraid. This wasn't the kind of joke my mother would make. She never takes a prank such extremes. She never takes a prank to such extremes. Certainly not one that could hurt me. At this moment, I realized something was off. I realized something was terribly off about her. In fact, I began to doubt if she was really my mom at all. From then on in, I became distant. Our conversations were minimal, only out of necessary. I began to avoid meals, spending more time locked in my room. These, period nights when she would stand outside my door persisted. It was like clockwork, always around the same hour, every night. After a while, the shadow would. I grew more anxiety. I grew more anxious, opting into leaving the house. I grew more anxious, opting to leave the house frequently, taking refuge at friends' places, just to avoid being home with her. She stopped going to work altogether during the day. She'd be in the backyard, engaging in strange activities, digging random holes, thrusting a towel into the ground, or just standing there, seemingly talking to herself through. I would never make out the words. Just standing there, seemingly talking to herself, although I could never make out the words. However, last night's events is one that will forever be stitched into my memory. Before drifting to sleep, I recall playing for an uninterpreted night rest. The sight of her shadow underneath my door had become a haunting fear. Become a haunting, fearsome night orderly. I found myself joint awake in the pitch black of my room. I shifted my glance to the bottom of the door, as I feared her shadow was there. She was standing outside, silent as ever. I tried to force myself back to sleep, but given the circumstance, I was not going to get any sleep tonight. Then something different occurred. A knocking. Then something different occurred. A knock. Several soft knocks. After the knock, silence consumed the room. Lying there. Fear After the knocks, silence consumed the room. Lying there, fear paralyzed me. What's different tonight? Why did she decide not? What's different? What was different tonight? Why did she decide to knock now? A chill struck me by my door. I didn't have a lock. A chill through struck me. My door. It didn't have a lock. It never did. Even from my childhood, the last semblance of a barrier between us wasn't even secure. The knocks assumed more insisted this time. Knock, 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 knock. I pulled the covers over my head, climbing to those childhood beliefs of safety, but deep down, I knew it wouldn't protect me now. The sound of the door creep opening made my heart pounce harder. I embraced myself, waiting for the sound of footsteps, but there were none. Had she retreated? Or was she just standing there, watching? Minutes dragged on in terrifying silence. Then suddenly, there was a rapid shudder of noise. It sounded impossible, fast moving from the floor to the walls to the ceiling. The entire room echoed it. Blind terror overcame me, thoughts racing uncontrollably. Is she crawling on all fours? How is she moving that fast? What is she doing? Am I gonna die? These fears consumed me until darkness took over. However, from stress to sheer panic, I lost consciousness, and gratefully it spared me um, from whatever horror unfolded the night. When the morning light finally greeted me, my room was a mess, everything torn down into chaos. It was nowhere in sight. It was nowhere in sight. Did it leave? Is it still in the house? These questions remain unanswered. Gathering up my courage, I finally left the safety of my bed and managed to prop a chair against the door for some semblance of security. I'm at loss for what to do next or whom to turn to, but this one thing's certain: I can't spend another night here. The house has been eerily quiet since I woke up, and I'm preparing to remove the chair and make a break for it. So far, there's been no clear sound. There's been no clear sound outside my door, which I hope means the coast is clear. Part 2. My mom went for a drive and came back different. I don't think she's my mom anymore. Growing up, our house was filled with warmth, laughter, and thanks to mostly my mother, she was the kind who would leave sweet notes in my lunchbox every night, without fail. She even told me stories of her own childhood until I drifted off to sleep. She was the cornerstone of our family, guiding light. We were close, incredibly so. That's why when she returned from her drive that night, the change was so alarmingly obnoxious. That's why the return. That's why the return from her driveway that night was so clear. Finally muttering the courage, I left my bed and slowly opened the door. The house was unsettlingly silent. This house was unsettlingly silent as through the house itself. It was holding its breath. No sign of my mom. The memories of early incidents clouded my thoughts, like the time I found a sewing needle in my pancakes, or the cold, emotionless glance she had held, and she tried to drown me in the sink. These memories glance at my insanity. The memories stirred a fear within me, a dread that she might be luring in some shadowy corner of the house. Without resistance, I sprinted out from the front door and got into my car. I shifted into reverse and sped out of the driveway, not looking back as the house shrank into the rearview mirror. A weight seemed to lift off my shoulders. I called a friend, telling them I need a place to crash for a night, not taking time to explain everything that happened. But just as the weight lifted from my shoulders, it was incredibly placed with fear upon hearing a voice I can never forget. "Honey, why are you leaving?" It came from the back, specifically the trunk. It was my mother. If I can even call her that anymore. I glanced into the rear mirror. Her eyes, gropes widened and stared back. They held no warmth, no motherly love, just cold, proudly hunger. Panic overtook me. Not thinking of the consequences, I flung the car door open and threw myself out, fearing the absent of the concept against my skin, concrete of my skin. The world seemed to spin. endlessly until a jam thud. I came to a stop, laying down on the ground. Every breath felt like an impossible effort. Bright headlights of a passing car illuminated my my bastard form. Soon, the hands were helping me resume the world, offering solace while calling for an ambulance. Later in the hospital, the doctors informed me that my injuries turned out I broke my leg and fractured my hip. Thankfully, none were life-threatening. Pain was a constant reminder of that ordeal, but comfort of the hospital bed and assume of safety offered some. But the comfort of the hospital bed, assumed of safety, but unmistakably sound broke the silence. 7 soft, deliberate knocks on the hospital door. "You can't run anymore," my mother's voice whispered. How did she find me? How did she know? I don't have the strength to move. I fear these might be my last words. If anyone finds this and knows she's not my mother, she's something else. Something far more sinister. Goodbye. Okay guys, so that's our story. Super creepy. What do we think? What happened to the mother? Like, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I was looking at some of the comments, and some people were saying I think it's called a shape. Yeah, people were saying it's like a shapeshifter or something. I know shapeshifters aren't real and stuff, but I don't know. Creepy, very creepy. Uh, I know I'd be terrified. So yeah, okay. This is kind of a short video, but I thought I'd just post this. There's some stuff going on in my life, so we'll see how my trying to record a video every week and uploading it will go. But for right now, I think it's my plan. I'm gonna try to get a video out either Monday or Tuesdays. It's my plan. But we'll see. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. I love you guys, and be nice. Do something good for someone. And yeah, have a great day, guys. Bye.